What's up, everybody? Welcome to this live post-game reaction. Raw, unfiltered, uncut. I don't have any notes prepped. We're going to screen share. We're going to go through some of the stats and the box score and make sense of this. But look, they say that the best wins are the ones that are convincing, end up being comfortable wins, and yet leave you plenty of opportunities to learn from. That is what this was about. The Seahawks beat the Vikings 26-0, a shutout. We'll look back and see when the last time that they got a shutout was. There's some causes for concern. Brian Flores did his thing, got some things to talk about on the offense, but man, the defense came to play today, and really from the first moment of the game, at least for me, there was no doubt they were going to find a way to win this game. Looked a little sloppy early on, ends up looking like an easy win, and I think we saw some positives in the second half. And one particular injury to speak of today as well that might change the look of a certain much maligned position group over the last couple of years as we move forward. This is Seahawks Forever. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Want to let you know a couple things before we get started. The Sizzle All the Way sale at Omaha Steaks right now. You're going to get 50% off site-wide, plus a bonus for being a viewer of this program. I'll tell you about that in a second. But first, let me tell you about Omaha Steaks, family-run business. They've been doing this for over 100 years. Certified USDA steaks. They have every cut you could ever imagine, and they deliver them right to your door in a cold case, individually cryo-packed. Been eating these steaks since I was a wee little tyke in the Viens family, and they are outstanding for gifts. First of all, you're sick of turkey already, aren't you now, after 48 hours? So let's eat or 72 hours. Let's eat some beef. Right? Get some steaks. The Sizzle All the Way sale is going to be going on the next couple of weeks. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And then at checkout, use the promo code FOREVER. They're going to give you an additional $35 off at checkout. That is how we roll here with Omaha Steaks. Also, if you're still down in Soto, maybe you went to the game or you watched the game down in that area, see that down at the bottom of the screen? Fast Fashion Brewing. Go check those guys out. They have some of the best beers in Seattle. Their Bavarian Pilsner was actually just named as one of the top 20 craft brews in the country by a leading magazine. Go say hi to Matt Storm and tell him I sent you. Tell him that you watched the show and check out some of their beers. They are fantastic. You will thank me for it afterwards. All right, 26-0. First of all, I saw this stat at the beginning of the fourth quarter, so now it would be 6 quarters. But after the third quarter, it had been 5 consecutive quarters that the Vikings had gone without scoring. Ends up being 6. That's their longest scoring drought in team history since 1991. Quick math. 34 years. Did I get that right? Since the Vikings have been shut out. And remember all the hyperbole about Max Brosmer. First of all, I guess it's Brosmer, not Brosmer, which lends itself to a lot of chuckling because he does kind of look like a bro. Anyway, all the buildup. You could see it happening as the week went along about how the Vikings got him invited to the combine and then they wished afterwards they hadn't because then he would have been their little secret, and how the Golden Gophers started to incorporate some of Kevin O'Connell's offensive schemes last year in his 1 year there after 4 years at New Hampshire, and how because he played so much college football, he was more advanced, maybe a little bit more like Brock Purdy. We were hearing that. They're kind of built the same physically and played a lot of football, all those things. Talked about his processing, how smart he was, how calm he was. Steve Mariucci must have been high this morning, said he was going to, in his bold prediction this morning on NFL Network, said he was going to throw for over 400 yards. Let's go to the box score and let's check and see. Max Brosmer finishes 19 for 30 for 126 yards. That's an average of 4.2 yards per attempt. Per completion, 4 interceptions, a rating of 32.8. Of course, there was the first one. I'm going to call it a Will Levis special, where he's getting pressured by DeMarcus Lawrence, I believe it was, right? He had a huge game today, but so did the recipient of this play, where he's scrambling, he's going down. It's a sack. he tries to underhand it out of the way. It would have been intentional grounding, but instead he throws it right to Ernest Jones, runs it back for the pick six. And Jones got another one in the second half. Outstanding day for him. Let's see where we ended up with sacks today. Surprisingly enough, only 4. It felt like there were more than that, right? But that's because 4 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 6 passes defensed, 7 quarterback hits, and then a touchdown on defense. Big day to have the Seahawks as your fantasy defense, which I do in one of my leagues. Unfortunately, I'm out of the playoffs in that league, so it doesn't matter. On the other side, though, and this will be one of the things we talk about, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about it when we throw it open for questions here in a minute. Tough day for the offense. At halftime, Seahawks had less than 100 yards in total offense. I think it was 88 yards at the half, and it was just pressure. Talked about this in the pregame show that first of all, I'm going to pat myself on the back for the Max Brosmer stuff. I don't buy into the hype. This kid has never seen anything like what he was going to see today at Lumen Field, and that is the case. Also, does it feel like we're getting the home field advantage back? Felt it today, didn't we? Felt it. A lot of false starts. That crowd was loud today. But also Brian Flores, look, he was going to empty the bag. He got Jonathan Grenard back today, healthy. They've got some dudes on defense. This is the same defense, essentially. They brought it back intact and actually added a couple of guys up front to it in free agency. Went out and spent more money on free agency than any team in the league trying to take advantage of that rookie contract situation. Hasn't really worked out, but that defense is still legit. I think they were 4th or 5th in the league last year in points allowed per game, under 20 points per game. And when they're healthy and they're at their best, they can get after the passer. And they harassed this Seahawks offensive line more than any team has this year. The Seahawks came into the game with 10 sacks allowed or 11 sacks allowed. They give up 4 today. 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss by the Vikings, 6 passes defensed, and 5 quarterback hits. So as good as the Seahawks defense was at shutting down the Vikings offense, the Vikings defense was just as good shutting down the Seahawks defense or the Seahawks offense. It's almost looks like a mirror image. Ernest Jones, 12 tackles, the 2 passes defensed, the 2 interceptions, and a touchdown. Eric Wilson, his counterpart on the other side, 11 tackles, a sack, 4 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. There were a lot of similarities in this one. Outstanding game by the second-year player, Dallas Turner, out of Alabama, too. Man, he had 2 sacks. And there were a lot of batted balls today. Felt like as we got into the second half, there were some adjustments. I talked, first of all, shout out to all of you from the Discord channel. Some of you that follow me on Twitter may have noticed I only tweeted a couple times during the game. And because I was in the Discord channel, which if you're a paid Pro Bowl or higher member on YouTube, you have access to, or if you're one of our Patreon members, you can get in that way. If you're interested in that, head over to nwforever.com. It'll take you right to the Patreon page. Sign up for that all everything tier there. And guys, I try to keep it as simple as possible. Like, this is how I make a living, but $10 gets you everything I do. Everything. All my Seahawks Forever episodes, live streams, videos without the YouTube ads inserted. All the audio, if you prefer audio, all the audio podcast versions show up over there as well. All my Mariners content, my written word, Substack stuff. And then you get the Discord. That's where I'm going to hang out. So shout out to Todd Martin Smith and John McGrath and X-Wing and Danny. And I don't want to leave anyone out. Osiris. We had a good little group in there. It's just, Twitter's so damn toxic during a game. Like, I went over there and posted one AI video I had made on a little program that I played in the pregame show, and it got really great response of me looking like Godzilla, like a big Hulk stomping through Seattle saying, "Go Hawks." That's all it was. And I posted that, and I had 2 people tag me or reply to me on Twitter and say, "Be a better person, AI. I just unfollowed you. I'm never going to watch another show again." Like, I understand the concerns about AI taking work away from deserving people, but I'm not doing that. For one guy called it a plagiarism machine. I'm not using it to write my content. I'm not using it to do any. I'm just having fun making stupid little videos, and that's not available to me elsewhere. So, like, I was on Twitter for 5 minutes and got a bunch of toxic bullshit thrown at me. So Discord's where it's going to be, man. That's where the people that really care about wanting to build this community are going to be. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It was great. And it wasn't as stressful. Although as I think, let's see, one of the first comments here. Yeah. X-Wing says, who gets emotional and overreacts during games? Definitely not me. Now, there was one injury of note. Actually, there might end up being a couple because Josh Jobe left late in this game. I think he was being evaluated for a concussion. Let's hope he doesn't enter the protocol because that seems like an automatic 2 weeks now. And, might be able to live without him playing the Falcons next week. But if they're at full health on offense, I mean, that's they got a lot of dudes over there that can attack you in a bunch of different ways too. And then Ernest Jones went down twice late in the game when we're all kind of screaming to like pull starters. Stayed in the game after the first time he went down, and then he was down to a knee again, jogged off under his own power, but he was wincing. So let's hope it's not that knee again. Let's hope it's something he can play through. And at minimum, get him back for that Colts game. He was everywhere today. He was unbelievable. And I got to give a shout out to Reek Woolen. Like he's been playing so much better the last 6 weeks that the conversation has shifted. Talked about it with Greg Bell on the show 2 weeks ago. We've talked about it a lot in leading up to this game. Talked about it amongst you guys on Friday and with Bryce Coots. He might be playing his way, even though some of us, there's still the idea that he doesn't exactly fit what Mike Macdonald wants in an outside corner from a physicality standpoint. I feel like some of that's been overrated a little bit or overstated, I guess I should say. But that interception he had today looked like rookie Reek Woolen, where he's got the outside receiver, reads the quarterback's eyes, comes off of him to undercut the post route. It reminded me of that pick that he had his rookie year in Detroit, where he did the same thing. He even came farther in that one and came all the way over and just made an instinctive play. Now he's carrying the ball like a loose loaf of bread. He ends up losing it on the fumble, giving it right back, but then they end up stopping him on downs. Vikings go for it on 4th and 13 at that point of the game. But I thought that was a really promising thing to see. Justin Jefferson was essentially taken away. We talk about mirror images in this game, right? Justin Jefferson ends up with, if I can just find it, he ends up with 2 catches for 4 yards on 6 targets. Now, the flip side of that, right? You want to talk about mirror image. JSN only 2 catches today on 4 targets for 23 yards. There was that adjustment. So first half, lots of pressure on almost every drop back. And it was that blind spot that we've talked about a little bit that Clint Kubiak needs to grow in. And this is one of the things I think it's going to, I know I did a show Friday talking about whether or not he's a viable candidate for a head coaching job, starting to get some buzz because of the success of this offense. I don't feel like he's there yet. And this is one of those examples where when he's just not very good when his team is in obvious passing situations. And they get in those situations by having 3rd and longs. They've been so good at this year is avoiding 3rd downs altogether. Greg Olsen talked about that quite a bit on the broadcast today, how their 3rd down percentage might not be what they want it to be, especially in 3rd and long, but they haven't faced very many of them because they do so well on 1st and 2nd down. Well, they were bringing so much pressure, and it was from very similar kind of a Mike Macdonald style, or it kind of reminded me actually the way Flores runs it with so many guys up on the line of scrimmage, almost reminded me of the old Buddy Ryan 46 defense, where you've got 8 guys on the line of scrimmage. You don't know who's dropping and who's coming. So there are some similarities in what Macdonald does. But they were just coming, and we just didn't have protection answers for it. They were beating us from everywhere. There was one where Anthony Bradford just looked like he didn't understand how to pick up the stunt, and guy came unblocked. But Charles Cross got beat by Dallas Turner flat out one time off the edge. Abe Lucas got beat flat out off the edge one time. And then, yet again, Sam Darnold gets sacked and fumbles the ball. And so while I thought today we saw 3 or 4 examples I can think of off the top of my head that I kind of made note of as the game went along of him just trying not to be a hero. There were a couple of plays that he got early pressure where he just dirted it, threw it at the receiver's feet, threw it out of bounds, threw a couple away. He ends up on the day 14 out of 26, 128 yards, 67.5 rating. So it's not a game that's going to make him look great in the stats. His passing chart's not going to look that great. There's no touchdowns. But I thought in the second half there was an adjustment from Kubiak. Because in the first half, a bunch of us in the Discord were saying, like, where's the 12 personnel? Let's give him some help. Where's the heavy packages? Or just, lining up two tight ends on one side, wherever, Dallas Turner might be lining up or Jonathan Grenard. Still left those guys out on an island at times, and they got beat for it. They've got the personnel and the defensive coordinator to be able to do these types of things to good teams. Their offense just hasn't been good enough this year to complement the defense for them to win more games. And so I thought it was a really good test for where this offense is and where it needs to get to face a defense like that. I think the Vikings are very similar in talent and how they're coordinated to the Rams. There might be differences in the schemes, but what I mean is just really good defensive play caller, really good personnel. You got a lot of money on that side of the ball. They've spent a lot of money on that defense. And so, with the Rams looming again in 2.5 weeks, and even the Colts before them, they can get after you on defense. They lost to the Texans today, though. That Texans win just continues to look better, right? Because they're winning with that formula. Best defense in the league, probably, arguably right now. Them, Rams, Seahawks. I'd put Vikings right up in there. Top 5 or top 6 when they're healthy and they're rolling. Brian Flores can cause some trouble. But there were a couple things. Second half, we were able to run the football with a lead to wind the clock down, and I think wear down that Minnesota Vikings defense. That's a good sign. And when we've seen that now, 3 straight games now, over 100 yards rushing for this team. Averaged about 4 yards a carry overall, 4.3 for Kenneth Walker. He didn't. It was a good example of a game where early he didn't. I think he had 7 yards on his first 6 carries, something like that. But then he bounces back in the second half, has some big runs. First play of the second half, I think it was it Harrison that grabbed his arm and just barely got like his hand. Otherwise, he scores. I think it was a 21-yarder, 24-yarder. To open the second half. He scores if it's not for that. Zach Charbonnet had some tough runs in the second half. And they got Rashid Shaheed involved in the passing offense just a little bit more. I mean, it seemed like it. Oh, you know what I'm forgetting is the ball that looked like a catch and then it hit the turf. But he got 3 targets in this one, just the 1 catch for 7 yards. That's weird. I feel like my memory is failing me here that I thought maybe he was a little bit more involved. But A.J. Barner as well, especially in the second half. He ends up with just 4 catches, 35 yards. One of them was on a design screen, kind of a middle screen with some blockers in front. I really liked how that was drawn up, and I liked when they called it. It was in the third quarter. They're coming out after halftime. We saw some adjustments. We saw some designed throws to Kenneth Walker. He had 3 catches for 18 yards. Get him the ball in space. But just, you have to make the defense defend every blade of grass. And I feel like the one thing Kubiak hasn't done as well yet, or as well as I'd like to see him, is make them have to defend sideline to sideline. They'll do it with wide receiver screens, but we just haven't seen those be effective. But I want to get the ball out in space to Kenneth Walker. It doesn't necessarily have to be a design screen with a bunch of pulling blockers. We just don't we don't get to have that here in Seattle. Haven't for 10 years, probably since John L. Williams was here, or Ricky Waters, at least. But getting those tight ends involved in that way too helps. I thought there was an adjustment in the second half. This will be a cool one to see in all 22. But then also, something to keep an eye on, Anthony Bradford left this game, I think, late third quarter with an elbow injury, didn't return. Christian Haynes came in for him at right guard for the rest of the game. Ran the football pretty effectively after that. End up getting the touchdown actually on a really well-blocked play. Now, that was away from Haynes. Props to Nick Callerup, the rookie tight end, had a great lead block on that play. For Charbonnet, kind of seems to be the closer on that offense a little bit. What is that, 7 touchdowns for him now? Let's see, Zach Charbonnet on the year. Yeah, 7 touchdowns, tied for 9th in the league. But there was some cool stuff in that second half. Martin Lawrence, thanks for the super chat. Great, we won, defensively dominant, which I loved. I know some won't agree, but like the adjustments and no heroic approach by the offense in the second half. I was thinking about this as I was hopped in the shower real quick before I went live, and I was thinking about, like, if this had been the way they were playing all year long, where the offense kind of has stops and starts, gets sacked a few times, isn't as prolific as you would hope. You're a little frustrated that they can't get going, settling for field goals instead of touchdowns. But the defense dominates and gives you a chance to win every Sunday, and they're 9-3, then I think you get to this point and you're like, okay, this is who they are. It's probably what they're going to be. And you can win that way in the playoffs, just being opportunistic, picking your spots, grinding, kind of staying in there, right? But the fact that they got off to the great start through like 10 games, well, until the Rams game, and offense is high flying, leading the league in explosive plays. Sam Darnold, top 5 in all these different categories. JSN leading all receivers, being in the conversation for offensive player of the year, maybe even MVP. And now you see a game like this, and your instinct is to panic. Oh God, what do we do now? It is cause for concern. Did the show last week, red flags, green flags, as you get into the playoffs against better teams, better defenses, teams that have better play callers, have better offenses, better quarterbacks that you're facing, right? It is a concern. Absolutely, it's a concern. I do think there is some positives to take out of what happened in the second half. That they were able to run the football, and that we saw an adjustment from Kubiak. And as Martin Lawrence says here, that the lessons learned from the Rams game seem to have taken. Now, one other concern that I have, and this kind of cropped up earlier this year, but it's not anything you can change. A lot of quarterbacks are like this. It has more to do with being better at pass protection. A lot of batted balls today. In the first half alone, there were 3 or 4. He does have a little bit of a low release point for a guy who's 6'2", 6'3", but most quarterbacks do now, because nobody really throws over the top before. We've talked about this with Bryce Coots and his quarterback coaching experience, that the way these quarterbacks are being taught now is to throw rotationally and hold the ball a little bit lower. You generate a little more torque that way. It's a more repeatable motion. It's easier on your shoulder and your elbow, and you can be more accurate. And that is going to lend to a lower release point. That can still be fixed with better pass protection. And I wonder, we're going to see now in the next 2 weeks. This will be fascinating. And I'm not hoping for an injury. I never want to think that way. Those of you who have followed me for any length of time, especially on Twitter, would know that even when players from other teams get hurt, it breaks my heart. Like, if I rubbed the bottle and the genie came out and gave me 3 wishes, one of those wishes would be, I want there to never be injuries in football. Like, I want to see teams at 100% playing each other. To me, that would be the dream. Let's truly find out, best on best, who the best team is. So I never root for injuries. But how can I word this so that I'm being respectful? I would really like to see, first of all, Jalen Sundell won't be eligible to come off injured reserve until after this next week. So in time for the Colts game. And that's assuming he can get up to speed in 1 week. Now, remember, Mike Macdonald 2 weeks ago, he hasn't specifically talked about Sundell, but he did say before the Titans game, everyone who's on injured reserve to return this year looks like they're going to be able to return when they come off the injured list or something. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And so I've been operating under the assumption and the theory for the last couple of weeks that when Sundell comes off injured reserve, they're going to give him a shot at right guard because Olu's playing well enough at center, as I kind of thought most of us expected, right? That I think that's your best five. Gives you the best chance to have the best group as you get into the playoffs and give them 4 games to work together. But also in the interim, if Bradford can't go next week, I kind of want to see what Christian Haynes looks like for a full game. Against a team that really doesn't have dominant interior defensive players. Falcons have added a lot on the edges. They got a lot of young dudes that can come after you with speed on the edges. And Grady Jarrett is still there, right? But I don't think they just don't have. It's not like facing the Titans last week where you had Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat, or even the Vikings today, Jonathan Allen. I mean, they got some guys in there too, or even the Cardinals, with Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson, Walter Nolan. They've faced a bunch of those teams in a row. I'm not saying I'm hoping that he doesn't come back, but I want to see what else there is. And regardless, I think Sundell is going to be given a chance to win that job when he comes back anyway. There can't be. We've seen this organization, this team, this coaching staff make too many personnel decisions that serve as evidence that the best player plays. And I don't see any scenario where Jalen Sundell comes back healthy, especially after the entire offseason of them just glazing him, right? Of him not getting a shot to compete for and win that right guard spot. Scott 23 Dogs, member for 8 months. Thank you. Just smash mouth football. Gotta love it. They came out. If there was any thought that they were going to be flat or somebody called it a trap game in the pregame, which doesn't fit the definition because they don't have a rival or a big game the next week. But they put that to bed immediately. They weren't going to take this team lightly because they were playing a rookie undrafted free agent. And you know what I haven't even mentioned yet? That, let's switch back over to this. I should have led with this, I suppose. But here's the NFL's current standings. And thank you, Carolina Panthers. I know some of you were in on the live pregame. We were doing a little bit of a hate watch and some play-by-play there. Thank you, Carolina Panthers. That was an unexpected bonus from them, beating the Rams today in Carolina. So the Rams and Seahawks now tied at 9-3. And the Seahawks conference record is 5-3 compared to the Rams at 4-3. Now in the division, Seahawks are 2-2. The Rams are 2-1. That'll work its way out as we get to the end and all teams have the same amount of games against each other. Right now, they have an edge in conference record. They have reclaimed the point differential title. In fact, let's see what the Colts look like today. Yep, the Colts dropped to plus 108. Your Seattle Seahawks now lead the NFL in point differential at plus 133. The Rams are second at plus 124. And then the Colts are third now at plus 108. What a finishing stretch that's going to be, facing the Colts and then the Rams. The 49ers have worked their way up. They were -9 a couple weeks ago. They are now at plus 38. They take care of business today, so they are at 9-4. And all discussion can stop now about who the best team in the NFL is. I know some people will argue the NFC North. Just do some quick math. Bears with 9 wins, Packers with 8, Lions with 7. All 3 of the playoff likely teams from the NFC West all have 9 wins. The NFC is just insane right now. If you look at the conference standings, the Bears technically lead at 9-3. They would apparently be, because their conference record is 6-2. They would be the 1 seed right now with the bye, believe that or not. And then get to host all through the playoffs with those conditions there in Chicago. My goodness. And then the Rams, Eagles, because they're leading their division, Bucks at 7-5 because they're leading their division. And then the Seahawks would be the 5 seed right now because I guess according to this, then technically, because the division record is the first tiebreaker. So the Rams right now would win the division, even with the same record. Of course, that's going to take care of themselves because they play again. But look at that, 9-9-9-9. 4 teams in the NFC have 9 wins, 2 have 8, and 2 have 7. Over in the NFC, there's just the Patriots, 10 wins, and then 1 9-win team, the Broncos, 1, and then 4 8-win teams. It's crazy. It's going to be a crazy, crazy dash to the finish. If you haven't checked out the Sleeper app yet, please do. It is the #1 sports app out there for a reason. You can do anything on this app, all sports across the board, basically. But if we're just talking NFL, you can play fantasy sports. You can get into daily fantasy. You can pick games like we do on our Seahawks Forever Pick'em Pool, which I have dropped into 3rd place, I believe. Shout out to Rainier23 and Creefs Chiefs for being 1 and 2. Kudos to you. But if you want to get in on their games of skill, you can certainly do that. Now's the best time. They're going to give you $20 just for signing up. No deposit required. But if you want to make a deposit, they're going to match the first one up to $100, 100% if you use the promo code FOREVER. Terms and conditions do apply. That's legal in 25 states as of now. But everything else, all the free stuff is open to all. And if you're ever stuck somewhere, I know this time of year, maybe the family makes you go to like a Christmas, what do they call that down at the Tacoma Dome? Now I can't remember. My mom goes to it every year, but where they have big Christmas displays and decorations or that or we're going to go pick out a tree today or whatever. And you're in the doghouse. You have to miss the game. You can follow along play by play in real time, any game you want to watch. And you can react to each and every play. It's the best real-time game tracking out there. It's called Sleeper Zone. So check that out. And again, use the promo code FOREVER. Check out the Sleeper app today. All right, guys, let's see what we got down here. I don't want to miss you guys. Yeah, Brosmer, I guess. Brosmer is like a deer in the headlights at night. Yeah, that was rough. Hey, there you go, Myron. Yeah, reminded me of an 85 Bears game. A lot of defense. My mom, I was watching the game with my mom today, and she says, what's with all the running today? I politely explained to her that the Seahawks are running to burn the clock, and the Vikings were running so their quarterback didn't get killed or throw another interception. Osiris, good tie-in, says we should send the Panthers some Omaha steaks. We should indeed. Yeah, this is something that it's a week-to-week league. I've been saying this all year, week to week, and teams are going to adjust, right? I'm sure that the Vikings probably threw some things conceptually at the Seahawks that they picked up from the Rams game. They saw they did better. I was watching some of the Rams game at the end there, and they were defending the Panthers much differently than they did against Seahawks. They weren't playing too high. They were just playing cover 1 and or cover 3 and just playing a deep safety and playing zone underneath it. Teams are going to play. They're going to pick up things from what they see on film, from what other teams do that have success. You're going to have an answer for it. Now, in the first half on this one, and Greg Olsen did a great job pointing this out, there were some protection issues there. That's on the center. So just so you know, because he said, well, Sam needs to come up with some protection. He can audible to different plays, but in Clint Kubiak's system, unlike Ryan Grubbs, where he had everything on the quarterback's plate, that's why sometimes the clock would always wind down to 2-3 seconds left because Gino's doing all this, what looked like audibling, but he had to call the protections too. In Kubiak's system, it's on the center. So I don't know if that was something that the Vikings were doing to confuse them and kind of suck them into a certain protection and then have a call to go against it. I'm not sure, but just yet another thing to build on and take from and improve on and figure out some answers to so that we're better the next time we play a really good defense. I was going to do this. Let's see. When was the last time the Seahawks shut anyone out? Hold on. I'm asking ChatGPT. Hopefully none of you are offended. All right. Let's see how it's not great for sports stuff usually. It's a great example. The last time the Seattle Seahawks shut out an opponent was on December 1st, 2025. When they beat the Minnesota Vikings 26-0. If you meant the last time Seattle was shut up, okay. No, forget that. Okay, so let's just try Google. Sometimes Google is just better. Last time. Oh, that's funny. Okay. First shutout victory in 10 years. Let's see. November 11th, 2007. They beat Green Bay 34-0. So, yeah. No. The Vikings were shut out for the first time since Green Bay shut them out. Okay. Seattle's most recent shutout, a 26-0 win over Chicago, September 27th, 2015. Okay. Wow. That's great. It's really, really cool. Here's John saying Bradford's done. You're talking soft benching here. I don't think he'll get the starting job back. Haynes will hold it down until Sundell returns, and then it'll be Sundell's job for the rest of the season. I think that's our best chance to have our best five. Now, does it give us a little less push in the run game? Sure. But ran it pretty well after Haynes came in, and he's not as big and physical as Anthony Bradford. And by the way, this is kind of an underrated knock on Bradford's resume. Every single year of his career now, he's won the starting job and then gotten injured. Guy has trouble staying on the field. I want to see what that looks like. I do. And I agreed early in the season, a lot of people would suggest, especially after Mike Macdonald divulged to us, that the plan, if either of the guards had ever gotten hurt, would be to bring Olu in at center and move Sundell over. But I wasn't in agreement on just making that move because the line as a whole was playing so well. It's really tough to mess with that chemistry unless something like this comes along. And so, like I said, there are kind of some silver linings sometimes when players get hurt. I would really, really love to see that. Osiris saying again, great chat in the Discord today. Thank everyone who subscribes to Seahawks Forever on YouTube and Northwest Forever on Patreon. Yeah, that was a good time. Get in on that, and we can have some really great discussions in Discord. John says, I'll take an ugly win any day. 9-3 record. Miguel says, Seahawks defense gave me 28 in fantasy. Let's see what it gave me in my, because they're in, like I said, it's in the league that I don't have a chance. I'm eliminated. I was the first team to be mathematically eliminated. This was the draft from the restaurant I worked at for the last 6 years before I retired. And I did this draft while we were driving back to West Virginia after training camp from the lobby of a hotel on my laptop. So I didn't have my usual setup. I'm not making excuses, but I am kind of making excuses. They got me 32 points in this game. And so, of course, now that I'm eliminated, I am on track to beat the first place team. Of course I am. Of course I am. Am I still projected to win? Maybe not. Anyway, yeah, that's great for a defense. That's crazy. David Crockett says, I'd say Kubiak's second half adjustment to feature the short passing game was key. It looks like they fixed some protection things too. Like they just it wasn't as relentless as it was in the first half, where it did feel like it did at times last year, where every single drop back, there were guys coming unblocked. Sophie's dad says shutting out a team in the NFL is very hard to do. I don't care who's playing QB. It was a good game by our defense. Absolutely. Shutouts are hard, man. Especially with the new rules now with the kickoff return, how short the field is, how easy it is to get into field goal range. Now, they could have avoided the shutout late if they wouldn't have gone for it on 4th and 13, but if I'm trailing, I'm doing that too. What's a field goal going to get you there? Try to get the first down. I want to talk about this moment, by the way. Let's go back and do that. Let's go back and share this screen and throw the drive chart on there. Because I thought there was a really, really cool moment in this one let's go to the play-by-play. So the touchdown drive. 6 plays, 32 yards, no big deal. It was after the interception, or one of the interceptions. Was this a Kobe Bryant interception, which, by the way, I think it was X-Wing called at the beginning of the game in our Discord when you could see how the defense was coming out to play today. He predicted a Kobe Bryant interception. So 8-yard run, 1-yard run, then they get stuffed on 3rd down, and it's 4th and 1. And originally they run the field goal unit out there. And Greg Olson is saying, why aren't they going for this? They need to find some confidence for this offense. They haven't been able to score touchdowns. Sure, a field goal makes sense. It gives you another score and just pretty much puts this game away. But they should be thinking more aggressively and get this offense over the hump and think about what's to come the next 5 weeks, right? And it even looked like somebody told me that it looked like Macdonald was seen on the sideline mouthing go for it, and they didn't. So I don't know if it was a miscommunication. Maybe Coach Macdonald has spoken to that already in the postgame. I'll have to check that out later. And then the Vikings called a timeout. And that gave them a chance, by them I mean Seahawks, a chance to rethink it. They go back out. The cool little play call. At first, when I saw him lining up in shotgun, I was like, come on, Kubiak, what are you doing? But they run a lot of motion. There was a lot going on, a little misdirection play. They get Barner coming out into the flat, and they get the first down, and then they score 2 plays later. I thought that was huge and really had to leave a good taste in the offense's mouth and in Darnold's mouth. Now, Darnold went into the blue tent at one point today, too, in the first half and came out. And shortly before that, I had said in the Discord, hey, is he limping? Because I thought I saw it. And then he went into the blue tent. Yeah. John says, love having you in Discord. I like to be in there. That's where I'll be. That's where I'll be camped out from now on. That's where I'm going to spend games. Maybe even play with some of the features in there because we can do voice chat, can't we? I don't know. That might be a little crazy. Yeah, John says, loved seeing Reek jump the route for the interception. I think that's a huge sign. And the fact that I assume, like I said, we'll have to watch the All-22, but I assume he gets a lot of props for taking Justin Jefferson away. This is a cool point, too. Thomas Cox, good to see you, buddy. Can't believe Seattle won when their best receiver didn't go off. Great job defense time for Atlanta. As much as the offense had problems, they were able to find some answers, move the football in the second half, and overcome some of those things without featuring JSN. There was an adjustment, and that was one of my questions about Kubiak. I really, really liked seeing that. Myers and D-Law earned their paychecks for sure. Yeah, Myers has been really solid this year. Very solid. Now, he was kicking so well today. What was his long? It was like 54. That looked like it would have been good from 61. He had a couple kicks today that might have won the Rams game for him. D-Law for MVP. One of John Schneider's best free agent signings ever. Took a lot of heat for it in the offseason. A lot of people said he was washed up. It was a terrible signing. A lot of the national publications and everything thought that we overpaid for him. He has been a bargain. And now, I mean, save for a serious injury, but I think it's pretty likely he plays out the entire 3 years of that contract now. Don't you? Like, just what a great addition. Let me do this real quick, guys, and then I'll be right back with you.
Used to be one of those people that could fall asleep anywhere, anytime. It was awesome. But over the last few years, that's changed. If it's outside noise or neighbors in my building, midnight zoomy cat Olympics, or just the effects of age, it's gotten tougher. For years now, I've had to run a fan for white noise, and I've tried melatonin and sleep aids, but I wake up feeling groggy, and that's no way to start the day. But then I was introduced to the Manta Sound Sleep Mask. And this thing, guys, I'm telling you, this is a game changer. It gives me true 100% blackout and has ultra thin Bluetooth 5.2 speakers built right into the mask. So I can fall asleep to the sound of music, something I've done since I was a kid. And I'm telling you, the sound quality of these speakers honestly blew me away. I was not expecting them to be as good as they are. And now I don't have to deal with earbuds falling out while I toss and turn. Plus, it's got a 20-hour battery life and can be used without the speakers. You simply remove that outer layer held on by Velcro. So if falling asleep at night or just taking a much-needed nap has gotten tougher for you too, check out the Manta Sound Sleep Mask at mantasleep.com. And if you use my promo code FOREVER, they're going to give you 10% off your purchase. So just go to the description of this video, click the link, use the promo code, and enjoy the best sleep you've ever.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Just popped over to Twitter during that and saw a couple of things. First of all, Michael Sean Dugar tweets, Ernest Jones says his knee is fine. So that is a relief. And then DeMarcus Lawrence with this from John Boyle, with a pretty succinct summary of the Seahawks mentality on defense. They line up, excuse my language, they get fucked up. That is the mentality. Also, Sam Darnold says we've got to look ourselves in the mirror when it comes to the offense. It's a little frustrating basically hearing the same things over and over again. We did hear a lot of those same things after the Rams game too. Again, though, I actually feel better about the offense coming out of this game than I did about the Rams game because we saw the adjustments. And even in that Rams game, they have the two drives at the end where they adjusted. So I do think that we've seen enough last week in Tennessee, and then there were a couple times in this game, although we didn't take a lot of deep shots. He tried a couple of plus 20s. My concern after the Rams game was going to be that maybe he would get overly cautious and it would take away some of the mojo that he's got and some of what makes him really good, and that he does have a lot of confidence in that right arm to be able to zip the ball into some tight windows. You don't want to take that away. You just want to take away the plays when he's pressured of trying to make a play when maybe the smarter thing to do is eat it. Now, let's hold on to the ball when you eat it. Okay, let's stop fumbling. Yeah. Sophie's dad says teams are switching from defending the run to defending the pass against us. It requires an adjustment. And I do think that's a great point. And we saw some of that in the second half. Some of the underneath stuff, getting Barner involved, Walker involved, and running the football. They did that better in the second half. That's the thing. Kubiak has shown a very, very impressive amount of discipline and restraint in not ever getting away from running the football. And that's starting to pay off, I think. We're seeing some of those runs we're seeing a little bit more push up front. First of all, we're resetting the line of scrimmage a little bit. We're seeing better holes inside and outside. We'll take a look at some of the run charts here in a little bit, but we're seeing a little bit more of that. And at the same time, Kenneth Walker stayed healthy. And I saw somebody mention in the Discord, they said Walker looks a lot more patient today. There were a couple of runs early in the game where I thought the same thing, where he almost looked, dare I say, Le'Veon Bell-like in how he would take the handoff and then really just kind of stop, slow down, choose his holes a little better, which takes some getting used to, right? We're used to Walker just kind of going full speed ahead. Well, maybe he's finding that balance where that was always his mentality, and that didn't give him the clarity to see some of these cutback lanes in this wide zone scheme. So maybe it's just, Mike Macdonald's been telling us with that running game all year long. It's a little thing here, it's a little thing there. It's one of the linemen just missing his target slightly, or picking the wrong guy, or it's the running back just not seeing the hole or the opportunity. And now it's just coming together. It feels like piece by piece. 3 straight games now with over 100 yards rushing for the first time this year. So outstanding. Yeah, John says still concerning that the no other wide receivers showed up when JSN didn't get going today. I don't know that there was anything available downfield. That's the thing we're going to have to look at with the all 22. I don't know. I mean, it looked like a couple of those times that Sam was holding the ball, not getting rid of it as quickly as what we saw earlier in the season, is just because of what Sophie's dad just said. Like, teams are dropping more into coverage now, and I just don't know that there were guys open. I really want to take a look at that again. Yeah, because it should sorry, I got distracted here. Just looking through these comments. Again, Frofro said kind of the same thing. Seemed like they didn't have an answer for JSN being doubled all the time. I think Rashid could have been used too. It didn't look like the plays they chose were designed right. I just don't think there were guys open, at least not within the first 2.5 seconds till the pass rush got there. John, I'm going to disagree with you on this because, again, and I've been pretty steadfast at saying this, I don't think another rookie is the answer. First of all, they have some other sneaky needs on this defense, I think, with some of their contracts that are expiring, and they only have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, right? I don't want to add another rookie to this group. It's already the youngest offensive line in the league. It averages 24 years of age. Get a veteran. Go get a veteran. Trade for Cesar Ruiz, or if Joel Bitonio doesn't retire, a guy like that, or maybe if you can get people in the building to sign off on Wyatt Teller, although it sounds like that's something they wouldn't consider, but just find a good, solid, dependable veteran right guard. I think Ruiz would be perfect for that, but we don't have a lot of draft ammo unless maybe you could talk the Saints into taking a 2027 pick or 2 because that's supposed to be a better draft. But just a really steady, solid veteran right guard. You remember 2 years ago when the Seahawks ended up signing Lake and Tomlinson to play left guard, and that was a disaster. They brought 2 or 3 other guys in for visits. One of them was Greg Van Roten, who had most recently played for the Raiders. And I did a film study on him, and I talked about how I wanted them to sign him. One of the things he did really well was get out and pull, get into space. He was great getting out and leading on screen passes. So a really great fit for the wide zone scheme, which I wasn't as familiar with 2 years ago. Waldron used it, but not exclusively, not full time. Roten has started for the last 2 years for the Giants and been a very dependable player. He was like 31, I think, when he came to visit. Like a guy like that, or even slightly better. I want a veteran to play right guard. There's too much youth up there already. Let's go get a solid veteran, someone with a higher floor, someone you can depend on, someone that's not going to be a mystery. Sometimes rookies suck. Sometimes they do. And you have to go through the growing pains with them. I want this offensive line next year to be locked in and be legitimately good. I think the quickest path to that, stick a veteran in there. I really, really do. This is kind of cool. Benoit Delvaux. Am I saying that right? I like it. 7447, in case there's any other Benoit Delvaux out there. Defense was what made me an NFL and Seahawks fan, and it's like I'm falling in love for the first time all over again. It is pretty remarkable. I catch myself sometimes thinking, damn, is this defense really this good? When 2 years ago it was so bad. But I think the reason and maybe some of you will agree with me, I think the reason that I was able to believe it so quickly is because it hasn't been that long since we've seen it. Right? 12 years ago. Feels like it was just yesterday. We saw a dominant defense. So it's a little easier to believe because we have seen it before. And it did just kind of seem like just yesterday. Yeah, flight 266. I don't know. I think that's very likely what Bryce and I are going to focus on this week's film lab is, how do we defend that? Because the Falcons are going to try and rush us the same way. And they got some guys with some twitch. They got some juice in their pass rush. So I think we're going to have to break that down. I suspect, as it is with most things, it's a combination of things. Like I said, even watching it live, like one time it was Bradford and another time it was Cross just getting flat out beat by Dallas Turner, which we don't see that often. Another time it was Abe Lucas. It kind of seemed like it was a little bit of everything, which tells me it was more of a systematic issue, just not having a protection plan in place. Maybe Flores threw something at us that he hadn't shown on tape up until this point. He's that good of a play caller. I could see that possibly being the case. Let's see. Let's see here. Martin says we're 9-3 after 12 games with a chance to get to 10-3 next week. I'll take that. We got to 10 wins last season in week 17 against a Rams team that was resting a bunch of starters. Yeah. This team, let me be very clear about this. This team can run the table. This team can go 14-3. And if they do, I think there'd be a good chance they'd get the number 1 seed. The Bears might have the easiest path to that because they play the easiest schedule. Kudos to them. They're much improved. Ben Johnson is obviously the real deal. They've been, compiling some talent there for a while. They've made some smart free agent signings and trades. I don't know though. In the playoffs, our defense against Caleb Williams, he's much improved, but I like our chances. I like it. Yeah, Myron says Hawks offense will have to adjust today. Somebody made a really good point. We were talking in the Discord. When you see how good this defense is, we had a reasonable expectation they were going to be this good because of two things. We saw them be, they weren't this good, but we saw them be very good the last half of last year, the last 8 or 9 games. After the bye, after they got Ernest Jones, after they, traded Jerome Baker and released Terrell Dotson, put Tyrese Knight in there. And then things just clicked, right? They were top 5 in just about every meaningful metric for the second half of last season. Very reminiscent of Mike Macdonald's 2 years in Baltimore, where first half season wasn't great. They gave up 50 one week to Miami. It's a complicated scheme and it takes a while for these guys to get it. Then it clicked in. They were very good the second half of the season after they traded for Roquan Smith, just like the Seahawks went out and got Ernest Jones. And then they brought all those guys back. Their second year in the system with almost all their starters back. Guess what? They had a historically good defense. Same exact thing has happened here. So we knew, I think it was 9 players with 300 snaps or more in defense and 15 players returned that started at least a game last year. So there wasn't a learning curve. There wasn't a ramp up. We knew this defense was going to be good enough from the get-go to weather some storms that we thought were going to be brought on by an offense that was going to need a learning curve. It might take a while to come together. And it might be rough for a while. Well, the offense got off to a much better start than we expected. Well, guess what? Next year, when you look ahead to 2026, there's a chance. Well, not there's a chance. This is what's going to happen. This entire offense comes back next year. Now they have a decision to make on Kenneth Walker, but if it's not Kenneth Walker, it's going to be some running back that they hand pick, either in the draft or free agency, to go out and get that they think is a better match. So I'm not worried about the running back talent, but all their tight ends are back with another year of experience, young tight ends. The entire offensive line comes back, plus they're going to upgrade right guard. I assure you of that. So that unit and they're going to have played together for a year with this coaching staff in this scheme. See what I'm getting at? Quarterback comes back. Rashid Shaheed will be re-signed. So all the weapons will be back. Another year for Torrey Horton. Another year for Robbie Oots. Right? So all those benefits of the continuity that we saw from this defense coming together and then the big second-year jump, I expect that to happen next year with this offense and take another step. And I think, important to that point would be Clint Kubiak obviously staying, which I did a deep dive on that possibility talking to Bryce Coots on Friday. Go check out that full episode. I won't repeat it all here, but I think there's some reasons to believe that he's going to be around for a while, that he won't get one of these head coaching jobs this offseason. And that'll just give us our best chance, I think, to have an outstanding offense in 2026. So there's still some ceiling left to be achieved this year. I think we've seen what this offense can be, but I also think it's reasonable to expect that some of their weaknesses and Achilles heels are things that they're going to have to try to sort of patch up and work around until they can really address them in the offseason. But that should be good enough. I want to make myself clear again. They can win the table. This team is capable of that. Will they? I don't have a crystal ball. And again, this is a week-to-week league. The Rams just got humbled this week. They just got reminded again. It doesn't matter where your DVOA is compared to the team you're playing, right? Maybe they got caught feeling a little too good about themselves. It's all about how you show up and execute on that given day. And sometimes it's about the matchup too. Sometimes a team, you could run into a 4-7 team playing a 7 or 8 win team, and they just match up better. Their strengths against your weaknesses, etc. Plus it was on the road. The weather was shitty. Like we're going to run into some things like that over the next couple months too. So, Jason, why do you come in here? Happens about once a month. He'll pop in and just say nothing but negative. I've tried to humor you. I don't understand why you're a fan or why you even take the time. I don't get it, dude. I really, really don't. So life's too short, man. I've been reminded of that more in the last week than ever before. Like what's really important and what's not. And if you get so wound into a ball of cynicism and pessimism and negativity that you're stressed out by your sports team every week, then maybe you should take a break. So that'll be the last we see of Jason in this channel. I just don't understand troll behavior to begin with, but especially when it comes to sports, if you're never happy, why watch? Life's too goddamn short. Mike Henderson says the halftime offensive adjustments were perfect. It was boring to watch, but sometimes that's what's needed to win. 100% agree with that. I'll make a little bit more of a bold prediction, though, to kind of tailor or tag along with my assertion that this team is capable of running the table. If Sam Darnold takes care of the football, I think that needs to be the mentality. As I said before, right? And I know I'm trying to thread the needle here. You don't want to take away the aggressiveness, the confidence in his arm that leads to those big plays to JSN down the field. Because when he's dealing like that, he's as good as anyone in the league. The arm talent's real. But if he just takes care of the football like today, and he had the one fumble still. Stop that, Sam. But I'm talking about how he would throw the ball away if it wasn't there, dirt the ball instead of trying to be Superman when the pressure's there. This team can win it all. I truly believe it because the defense is that good. And I think the offense is good enough to support it. You have to play well, though. You have to execute and play well. Penalties, I thought were okay today. There was the one on the first drive that, we stopped. It would have been 3 and out. And then we got the ticky-tack little illegal contact play. Let me go back to these team stats here. Let me see what the penalties ended up. Yeah, 4 penalties for 25 yards. So really, really nice job. Meanwhile, the Vikings had 10 for 80. I think they had 3 or 4 false starts. They also had 3 or 4 offsides penalties, which, if I'm handing out criticism, like, Darnold needs to be a little bit better at taking advantage of those. The one time that he took a shot when they didn't call it dead, but it was a clear offsides. He tried throwing it to JSN about 25 yards down the field, but it was off to the sideline. He was covered. The ball wasn't catchable. I mean, nobody was ever better at that than Aaron Rodgers. First of all, he was the best ever at baiting you into jumping off sides with those cadences, but then taking advantage of it and getting a ball downfield that gave the receiver a chance to make a play. Thought he could have been taking advantage of some of those opportunities a little bit better. Scott, 23 Dogs, says you got to win games like this. It shows the character of your team. Absolutely. I know fans want everything to be pretty and sparkling and perfect. It's just not very realistic, right? You got to win some of these ugly games. It's kind of like the way, I mean, the Eagles have won 8 games this year, and they've all been that way. They're not blowing teams out, running by you on offense. They have all sorts of problems. If you saw Brian Baldinger's breakdown of their latest offensive performance, you could hear the disgust in his voice of just how they're not taking advantage of the things in front of them. Like, Jalen Hurts is missing wide open receivers. He's missing a wide open elite receiver in AJ Brown. And they're winning ugly. I don't know how sustainable that is, but along the way, you have to be able to win some of these games, I think. John asks, are we going to do a film lab review? Yeah, we took this week off because of Thanksgiving. We'll absolutely do one this week. And I think we will look at some of those protection issues. It'll be a really cool conversation to get into with Bryce about how those protections are called and what kind of things to look for with his offensive coordinator experience. I think that'll be really, really cool. Okay. Martin Lawrence says, yeah, we couldn't get any deep shots going because of the downfield coverage, or when the Vikings blitzed, they had 6 or 7 at the line. So there were a lot of snaps where they had unblocked rushers. Yeah, they were aggressive. Brian Flores also knows Sam Darnold really, really well. And I think this is so I have said many, many times that I think Darnold has taken way too much grief for his performance against the Rams in the playoffs last year. He was sacked 7 times. They were missing Darisaw. They were missing a bunch of guys on that offensive line. And then at the end of the season, they let both their starting guards and their starting center walk. And they went out and spent a bunch of money on Will Fries, who, by the way, was it Leonard Williams just threw him aside like a rag doll on one of those early plays. Thank goodness we didn't give Will Fries 5 years and $88 million. That's all I'm going to say about that. But there's a reason that offensive line was shot in the playoffs for the Vikings. They weren't going to have a chance no matter what. But so I thought that Sam kind of unfairly was criticized for that. You look at a game like today where I thought the pressure was almost as relentless as it was in that game. Here's the point I'm long-windedly trying to get at. If Sam just does a better job of throwing the ball away in that game, they might win it. They might find a way to win it. If he had avoided all those sacks, there was the face mask that wasn't called. There was all that stuff that kind of happened at the end. The Rams still probably win that game, but you see what I'm saying? Like, if he had just gotten a little bit more judicious about throwing the ball away in that game, I do think that there's a reason to believe that he's learning from these experiences. I think today we saw lessons, and last week we saw lessons learned from the Rams game. So now let's see the next step. Okay. Yeah, John, I'm always surprised by this. Get the ball out into space for your playmakers. If you do that, then they're going to have to come up and respect that, right? They're not going to be able to just drop as many guys into coverage. And we did see some of that in the second half. Hopefully, like to see it early. Let's anticipate that. Let's come out with some of those plays in your script, your opening script, knowing Brian Flores said it on Wednesday. He said, I like Sam. We're friends. Really enjoyed the year he spent here. I'm going to blitz the shit out of him. Literally said that. So maybe have a little bit of a plan, right? Yeah. Michael asks, what's going on with Darnold and the blocked passes? This should be fixed. It's a pass protection issue. Most quarterbacks now in the NFL have kind of lower release points. It's just the way they're being taught to throw. It's more rotational. It's a little lower. They don't come over the top anymore. And so you just have to clear those passing lanes. You have to be better at engaging blockers and not letting those guys get unblocked. Yeah, Scott summed it up. They came in with a good plan. We kind of withstood the storm and then made the adjustments and won. Go Hawks. All right. We're getting more spam. Again, must mean that, I'm having, that's when you know you're successful, right? I'd like to see this too. Us in deep Seahawk 20. I'd like to see him run for yardage a little more often. He could pick up some yards with his legs. We know he's a little more athletic than, some people give him credit for. And the coaching staff has even spoken to, and John Schneider has spoken to. That was one of the factors that played into their decision to sign him. But they're talking more about his ability in the rollout game. But again, Bryce Coots says all the time, and I agree with him, roll him out more often, especially early when you see. Today would have been a great example. When you see that the team you're playing is going to bring relentless pressure, get him on the move a little bit more, but also maybe design some opportunities for him to pick up some yards with his feet. There was a play against Tennessee down in the red zone, if you remember, where he was rolling to his left. And I thought if he had run for it, he might have scored. But the corners were all playing off 10 yards. He could have run and challenged the goal line on that play. Said he tried to, that was the one where he tried to throw it to A.J. Barner and it got knocked away. All right, let's see where you guys are at. Yeah, Michael says, come on, Woolen. Got to protect the ball, man. It was such a nice play, though. Hopefully that's more of a sign of things to come. And John says, yeah, he was probably just so excited after the pick, after the huge drought he went through. Can we get Devin Witherspoon an interception, please? Like, it'll be interesting to see the passer rating numbers. I think he's playing well on the outside. It's crazy to me that he hasn't even lucked into more interceptions. There were a lot of times early in this game, before we started picking the ball off, there were 3 or 4 balls that were knocked in the air that I thought we were going to come down with. This could have been a 5 or 6 interception game for Brosmer. Let me see. Yeah. I like this perspective, Martin. We won 26-0 with things to clean up. Looks like the team is learning as the season goes. So it's a win-win for me. And John says, yep. And I think that's a good way to end this live stream. Thank you guys for being here. Let's roll a little music here through StreamYard. Just a little something. Being here, Kicker, Discord, and some of you guys like John and X-Wing and Todd, I think, Osiris. Some of you were here for the pregame show on the Discord all the way through, and then here for the postgame show. Can't express how much I appreciate more than that. If you would please subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support the channel and help me out as a full-time independent content creator. All the other ways you can support me are listed and linked down below in the description. And I do get this question from time to time, so I'll address it here. Which is the best way to support you, because different platforms take different chunks of percentages. And actually that one right there, that QR code where you can buy me a coffee or a beer, takes the lowest amount of a percentage out. Also, check out nwforever.com. Become a member of Patreon. That's where everything is housed under one roof for one low price, and that includes the Discord, Substack, Mariners, Seahawks, all of it. Let's continue to build this community as we move forward. Tomorrow I'll be back with you seem to like this one. So I'm going to do the blind react to Mike Macdonald's radio show on 710 Sports. I think he's more candid in those interviews than he is behind the podium, and we get some good stuff out of there, and it's fun to react to those blind, and you guys seem to enjoy it as well. So look for that tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with me throughout the month of November and for all your support. Follow me on Twitter @Seahawks Forever. Until next time, forever and always, go Hawks. Thanks for watching.